Hi again, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt, and whatever you're referring to as 3 weeks of not leaving your house. We have fantastic guests this week, veteran sports journalist, all-around amazing man, StephenBrunt, and amazing chanteuse, Sarah Slean. First, I want to give a shout out to all the chief medical officers all across Canada trying to guide us through this pandemic. I believe we have a visual here. Yep, that's the expression they all have on their face. Could you please just stay home like I've told you 1,000 goddamn times? So while you're staying home, why don't we get into week 3 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt?
Killing me.
Hello and welcome to the Steve Patterson Projecttt, episode 3. If this were the Star Wars franchise, this would be Revenge of the Sith. So, thank God we're not the Star Wars franchise. By the way, we have a live audience this week, which we're very excited for. Thank you so much. It's a full house here tonight. I think we've got eight people, none of whom, by the way, wrote the show. So this is a real treat to have actual outside audience members. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
for having us.
Okay, let's get into it. Canadian rap superstar and male duck homonym Drake appeared in this month's Architectural Digest, showing off his new multi-million-dollar Toronto mansion with a tweet that read, "Here's what you've all been begging for." Weird. I thought we'd all been begging for an end to this worldwide pandemic that is keeping all of us inside of our own homes. Not a glimpse of a place that answers the question, what if an Italian restaurant did cocaine? Drake started from the bottom. Now he's here? If those are the choices, I'll take the bottom. And now that I've said that out loud, I realize we should have worded that differently. Prime Minister Trudeau announced on Tuesday that Canadians returning from abroad this week who do not have credible quarantine plans will be forced to quarantine in a hotel for 14 days. I'm not sure forced is the right word here. Personally, I would love to be forced into a hotel right now and then manhandled into a fluffy robe and kidnapped into a continental breakfast. The 36th annual WrestleMania went ahead last weekend in Florida after Governor Ron DeSantis declared professional wrestling an essential service. True story. The move confused many, but it joins other essential services in Florida, such as doing the do with the dudes, showing gators who's boss, and drowning in a bog. Never change, Florida. You're an unending fountain of comedy material. Due to social distancing rules, some church services have moved to drive-in theaters, which is free for kids to attend if you hide them under a blanket in the trunk, like my dad used to do with me and my brothers. Not a joke, just a childhood memory. But imagine, if you would, church at a drive-in. Let's all go to communion. Let's all go to communion. Let's all go to communion and eat the body of Christ. Okay, now just you in the back. This is going better than I expected. Workers at the food delivery service Instacart have been stunned by people who order promising a large tip, but then remove the tip after the groceries have been delivered. That is an awful thing to do to people who know exactly where you live. But it is a great way to ensure that the next time they deliver eggs to your house, it won't involve the carton. Little house egging joke. Again, about what it deserved. It's been a great week on TV for sports fans in Toronto, as TSN aired the Toronto Raptors championship run from last year, while Rogers Sportsnet aired the Toronto Blue Jays championship run from 1993. There was even talk of broadcasting the last Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup run, but of course, that happened before the creation of color. Not color TV, actual color. That ends our monologue for this week. You have been our best audience that we've ever had, and I'm not just saying that because you're the only ones. Thank you so much for joining us on the Patterson Projecttt monologue, and we hope to see you guys again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and it's killing me.
Of course, the current sports leagues right here in the year 2020 still have to figure out what to do about everything that's going on, or really what's not going on. So to weigh in on that situation, we go now to our sports correspondent, Jeremy Woodcock. Jeremy?
Thanks, Steve. Sorry for the delay. There's no problem with our connection. I just haven't eaten a vegetable in about 3 weeks, so I kind of blanked on your name for a second there. Now, Scott, few industries have been affected quite as much as the professional sports world during this pandemic. The NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, if it's got 3 letters in the name, it's probably been shut down. Don't get me started on what's been happening to the VCR industry lately. But all the leagues are still trying in their own way to think of creative ways to still provide entertainment for their fans. The NBA, for instance, has already begun airing games of horse between players isolated at home. If you don't know what horse is, that's a game where one person tries to take a shot and then another person tries to do the exact same shot. So a lot like some of the drinking games we've all been doing at home to pass the time during this. But that's nothing. Some folks in the NHL have apparently discussed the radical idea of playing all the rest of the games this season in North Dakota. That's right, you may not have earned a single NHL franchise in North Dakota, but hold out long enough, you end up with all of them. I guess North Dakota is as good a location as any. Maybe. Our best scientists and geographers, with their most extensive efforts, have still not precisely located where North Dakota is. But the idea has been floated, and I feel like floated is the operative term there, because July and August in North Dakota, I feel like you're not going to have much solid ice. So if they're just thrashing around in a pool of water at that point, my money for the Stanley Cup is on the Penguins, or the Ducks, the Sharks, or the Boston Bruins. They don't really have anything to do with water. They're just really good at what they do. Solid fundamentals. Pucks in deep. I do think golf should probably just go ahead and play no matter what. Not that I'm not worried about the players, but aren't they already like 300 yards apart? Not sure of the conversion, but I'm pretty sure that's more than 6 feet. Also, nothing changes in golf if the crowd has to stay home. It's the only sport where they get mad at you if you make noise. That's why you see a lot of this. You can do this from home. The mic can't even pick it up. That's how you know it's a good golf clap. But I think the smartest move in all of this was made in tennis by Wimbledon, but it was made 17 years ago. That's right, they solved all of this before the Fast and the Furious franchise was even a gleam in our eyes. They've been paying $2 million a year in pandemic insurance for 17 years. So with the cancellation of this year's tournament, it's not a disaster for them at all. In fact, they will receive a payout of $141 million. Some are saying that may pay for as much as half of next year's hand sanitizer at the tournament. Speaking of solo sports, I feel like bowling's got to go, though. Sorry, it's like they taught us in health class. When you put your hand in that bowling ball, you're not just bowling with the person who bowled before you. You're bowling with everyone they've ever bowled with before. No matter what the leagues decide to do going forward, there seems to be only one thing all parties agree on. The Toronto Raptors are your defending NBA champions. I mean, maybe they didn't say that. Maybe I just wanted to point that out, and I did. So, anyway, thanks, Simon. Steve.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that in-depth sports analysis. Now, because we may have actual sports fans watching, we are going to turn to an actual sports expert this week. No offense, Jeremy.
None taken.
He's a veteran sports commentator, a celebrated author, and most importantly to me, the commissioner of the Comedy at Woody Point Comedy Festival, which I have had the pleasure of hosting in Grossmoor, Newfoundland, the last few years. Here's the one and only, the incomparable and knowledgeable StephenBrunt. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's week 3 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt, and I'm here with a man I consider to be my sports guru, nay, maybe my life guru. He has just put his alcoholic beverage out of shot, but trust me, it's there. He's at home. He's relaxed. It's Mr. StephenBrunt, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, sir.
Hello, my friend. How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you so much for doing this. And first question out of the gate, no one else would ask this. Is Grossmoor, Newfoundland the most beautiful place in the world?
Yes, easy. That's an easy one. I'm glad you started with the easy questions. Yeah, it is paradise on earth. Maybe not today, like whatever date this is. I kind of lost track, but It's probably a little cold there right now and gray, I'm guessing. But on a nice warm day in July, yes, there's no better place on earth.
And we've had some great talks and walks up there, and your work with the writers at Woody Point, and of course comedy at Woody Point, very popular festival that we probably don't get to do this year. But when it comes to the greater sports world, are sports, professional sports, are they ever going to come back the way that we knew them?
Well, yeah, ever's a big word, right? Like yeah, they're going to come back, but it's like everything else, right? There's no roadmap. There's no roadmap into how they come back, because such a fundamental part of professional sport and how we enjoy it is that idea of a crowd, right? It's like, gathering in one place to watch something right now seems dangerous. And it's, whether or not it's going to be dangerous a year from now or 6 months from now or 3 months from now, I think it's going to take us a while to feel comfortable. Even after somebody on high says it's okay, you can go ahead and do it. You can be closer than 6 feet to somebody. And I think before that, in terms of sports, I think we're going to see it in empty rinks and empty stadiums. I think that's for television. I think we might see that this summer. I know they're planning or trying to plan and trying to come up with scenarios because, of course, that, the business, everybody wants to try and make some dough. But that'll be weird. It'll be like nothing we've seen before. I'm not sure how it's going to be configured, what the Stanley Cup playoffs or the NBA playoffs would look like, what baseball's going to, you've heard all these kind of scenarios they're floating. But I think something's going to happen this summer. But being able to just go to a ball game or a hockey game and sit in a crowd, it's kind of unimaginable right now, isn't it?
Doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I guess the question would be, what about the athletes themselves, the concern for the athletes? I mean, you can't play sports 2 meters away from each other. Golf, I hear you. But other sports, contact or no, you can't really be 2 meters away from each other playing a sport. So what about the athlete's safety?
Well, it's, the athletes, the trainers, the coaches, all the support staff, what they're talking about now is, trying to find a way to almost put those people in a bubble, right? To try and, test them going in, test them coming out, minimize the number of people that are involved, play all the games in one location, play all the split baseball between Florida and Arizona in the spring training site so you don't have to move people around. And there's a million questions to be asked. Like NHL players, among other things, have dispersed. Some of them are back in Europe, where they, there's guys on both sides of the Canadian-American border. Right now, you can't cross that border. How do you get them back? Can you get them across the border? So I think we're going to see, them twist themselves into knots to try and create something between now and when the next season would begin.
Right.
To, create a bit of economic activity, create a bit of money, and, to kind of take our minds off it a little bit, which I'm okay with the last part.
What about the fans? Let's leave aside for a second that it is, I miss watching sports, but I'm getting on with my life without it. It's kind of nice to, I watched the Raptors win again last night.
Yeah, me too.
You can relive some great moments, but I was already not a guy that liked to pay a lot, the prices that you have to pay to go to these games and the concessions. I took my dad to a Raptors game. He literally almost had a heart attack when it was $18 for a can of beer, which it shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a correction? They're going to have to bring the fans back, I would think, similar to after like a baseball strike or something like that. And they're going to have to say, hey, or the hockey strike, and say, hey, we need you back. Tickets are $20. No one at the end of this, I don't think, or not at the beginning, is going to say, oh, sure, here's $150 for a ticket or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve. Like it. There may be a tremendous amount of pent-up demand. Again, let's imagine a world where there's a vaccine, right? Or there's a treatment where people actually do feel secure.
Please,
so, yeah, so you're not feeling like you're risking your life. And again, even then it's going to be, like, think how weird it's going to be to pack into a stadium or an arena, or go to a club to hear a band, or, go to hear a comedy show, like where you're packed in like sardines. It's going to be strange, right?
That's generous of you. I don't really pack them into my show. I can leave quite a bit of room around everyone.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's responsible of you. Thank you for doing that for our public health. But it's going to feel weird. But I guess the question would be, are we going to be desperate for that experience after this? The tickets to sporting events or to anything are priced exactly as high as they can be priced, right? That not a nickel less. It's about the market. The market sets the price. Yeah. So I don't know what we're going to be at the end of this, whether we're going to be, afraid of each other, or we're going to really want that collective experience again, which is so much like, it's nothing like being in a crowd for a sporting event, right? Like it's great to watch it on TV, but I'm not sure anything replaces that.
I would like to do what we only do on this show, I think, which is bring in our very talented fly on the wall. If she's there, are you there, Sarah? It's
Join us.
One and only Sarah Slean. Hi, Sarah.
Yowza.
Hi, Stephen.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you. Yes, he can be Stephen for this one. When I go to Woody Point, everyone there is named Stephen. I've realized. True story. Sarah, you've been listening in on this, and we're talking sports, the business, but also public performance here. So, Sarah, I don't know if anything came up in that conversation that you'd like to ask Stephen about.
I mean, music is the same thing right now. We make a livelihood out of collective experience as well. So everything is up in the air for us. Will people feel the confidence to gather again? Who knows? But I've been to a few NBA games and I've seen those $18 beers. And I mean, like, how does that whole ecosystem require an $18 beer? I understand that there's a massive arena and there are big salaries, and these are the best of the absolute best. But how are the concessions so insane? How? Do you know the answer to this?
Yeah, he's not in charge of concessions, but he's got the answer.
Yeah, my answer is capitalism, actually, but that's how there's the one word answer. Like, look, when I go to the Phoenix, the beer's $12, right, to hear a show.
Yeah, you're right.
That's only 2/3. That's 66%. And by the beers are pretty big, so by the time you get to the bottom, they're warm. So I'm paying $18 for warm beer. But let's try to go beyond the price of beer at the stadiums. If we can. Both of you are not just experts in your field, but I consider you both to be philosophers to a different degree of the wider world. Sarah, particularly, you've studied some Buddhism. What is there in those readings and teachings that you've looked over that might help us on the other side of this? Because is there any one thing you can think of that can help us think to the other side of this?
Wow, I'm totally floored that you would ask that. Well,
it's deeper than most shows.
It really is. What I love about Eastern thinking in general is that they sort of ask, did you expect this was going to be a feathered nest and a cakewalk? No. Life and this plane of existence is innately a challenge. That's what it's for. And to accept that going in, I mean, like, if you look at the course of human history, it's just problem after problem after problem. The solutions to these problems create new problems. And that's what it is to be alive on Earth, which is why it's really miraculous that beautiful, moving, life-affirming things happen also, like music, like incredible feats of athleticism, like, comedy. So
you didn't seem to have the same enthusiasm for comedy.
Seriously, if I watch a funny movie in times like this, I don't know about you guys, but I've been very anxious. I don't know what it is, the uncertainty or the, thinking about people getting sick. You go to the grocery store and you can sense this sort of ambient anxiety. And it's such a gift to be able to laugh. Entertainment has a really beautiful spiritual purpose, I think, whether it's music or watching collective, watching a sporting event. Those things are really wonderful. And so is nursing, you know what I mean? So it's not that these things one is better than the other, but it's a really beautiful thing to be able to laugh during this time. So I think comedy is right up there.
Very well. That's the soundbite we were looking for.
Yeah, right. Well, but to get back to Buddhism and philosophy, I think the lesson of this time is very Buddhist, and the lesson of this pandemic is impermanence. All things change. The nature of this experience is constant change and flux, and to just kind of accept that as part of the course, really.
Wow. It's the best answer we ever had on the show, I'll be honest with you. Stephen, you got anything, buddy?
I got nothing, buddy. That was I'm in awe. That was fantastic, Sarah.
I want to thank Stephen for being part of this panel. I know it's a different panel than you're usually part of, but
That's true. That is true.
But thank you for being part of it. And
Got my beer.
I hope we can chat again soon, and I hope we can go to a live sporting event soon, sometime down the road. Thank you for being part of this, Mr. Brunt. You're welcome to listen in if you like. I think you'd be crazy not to while you're finishing your beer there, but I understand that beer wasn't $18, but it's good. So thank you so much for joining us, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Steve. Bye, Sarah.
Thank you so much for joining us on the project.
My pleasure.
And I've been immersed. I've gone down a Sarah Slean wormhole in the last few days, and it's the greatest wormhole that I've ever gone into on the internet. You've been sitting there behind your piano very, very patiently during this whole thing. Would you do us the honor of playing a song, and then we'll chat after?
I would love to.
You will find the right words, just you wait and see. They'll be falling from the rooftops on a blossom-covered breeze, and the song you need to hear it will be singing through the trees. Are you listening? Don't you see? You are on the right path. You will realize the tears are there to leave you with a brighter pair of eyes, and the pain that you've been fighting is an angel in disguise. It is love, and love is wise. Throw your heart into the ocean. Throw your heart into the sea. You will find that all the right words just come out naturally. There's still time to notice, still time to believe that a door at last will open where doubt and darkness used to be, and that the paradise you long for is underneath your feet. What you running for? Where have you been? Throw your heart into the ocean. Throw your heart into the sea. You will find that all the right words just come out naturally. Just come out naturally.
Yes. So beautiful. I would pay infinity at $18 for a can of that. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. It was really fun.
So beautiful. No, we're going to talk now. I get to
Oh,
I
okay.
get the joy of speaking to you after this. We just got a little bit into the panel there, but I have so much more to ask.
Oh, okay.
Drake, I brought it up earlier that he was Architectural Digest. For some reason, they thought everyone was begging to see a shot of Drake's mansion, and you came up with the best tweet on that, which was
Thank
you said his chandelier is the coronavirus.
It
And
looks like the coronavirus. It
well-
literally does. It's this big round thing with these spiky projections with like weird suction cups on the end. And it's so weird. Why would they publish that right now?
No,
I was like, is it a message from the Illuminati?
And I did say, I believe as a follow-up to your tweet, that that's probably not COVID-19 because that would be too old for him.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah, so we had a good time at Drake's expense. I might have just lost him as a guest. I don't know, but I'm willing.
You did.
I'm
It's
willing
not
to.
going to happen.
The last question is still thoughts of putting together a full musical coming up in your future?
Yes, I'm writing a musical right now based on the film Maudie. The producers of the film are also making a stage musical, and I hope one day that people will again fill darkened theaters because this story is so beautiful. It's about a Canadian painter, and it's just her beautiful life in rural Nova Scotia. That's called Maudie.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for taking part in really classing up that discussion earlier.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm such a fan.
Thanks, Sarah.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
That's it for episode 3 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt. Thanks again for watching, and sorry there were no Sith. I want to thank my guests, StephenBrunt and Sarah Slean, and of course our own sports correspondent, Jeremy Woodcock. If you want to catch more of Stephen, you should watch him on Rogers Sportsnet. If you want to catch more of Sarah Slean, she's got a concert coming up on SideDoorAccess.com. And if you want to catch more of us, you should subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Facebook or on Twitter at The Project. I don't know. It's all up there. I don't know. I don't even know what time of day it is or what day it is. So good, whatever day and whatever time it is, please keep watching, and thank you so much. I'm Steve Patterson. This has been the Steve Patterson Project.